think that changing somebody's mind is one of my favourite things. Somebody who takes a role somewhere and says, you know what, William, when we first started speaking about this position, I wasn't interested at all. But then you changed my mind. 6 months later, I'm looking back on it and it's the best decision I ever made. That for me is magnificent. I'll often tell somebody if a company's not right for them. I'll often tell a company if people are not right, or I'll often tell a company I think they're looking for the wrong type of person.
William Morris, welcome to the Entrepreneurial Engineer podcast. It's a pleasure to have you on.
It's weird, Darren. Thank you.
So tell me, what mission are you currently on? What's your mission in your career, and what's driving you at the moment? What gets you up every morning?
Well, I'm close to 20 years in recruitment now, and years ago it was the thrill of the chase. Somebody would, and the challenge. We can't fill this role, or we've used 6 different agencies for the last year and we haven't managed to fill it. And that for me was like a dog with a bone. I'm 53 now, and I think that thrill of the chase it hasn't gone, but I'm driven much more now by problem solving. So understanding the real problems that my clients have, and problem solving for them. But I think also shaping the careers of people, or helping. I shouldn't say shaping the careers of people, because all I do is put parties together, right? But I'm a lot more focused now on the right move for the right person than I probably was in my more junior days, where it was just a bit more gung-ho, and it was all about not so much putting bums on seats, because I've never really been chasing invoices, but really it was just filling roles, just taking on as much work as I could. And now I've got 2 kids, and the focus is a little bit different. So I work permanently from home thanks to COVID. But for me, I'm still very much focused on doing the right thing for people, in terms of understanding what might be a good move for them and only presenting them with those moves.
I mean, how do you navigate that? I mean, you can, and I like you saying you shape careers. I think you can definitely say that without equivocation. That's no problem. How do you do that? How do you say, okay, I know your personality, I've done my interview, I know, and then you just go, oh, is this roles that you have, or you've got an ability to like, have you got your own matrix of how people and how they might fit certain roles, or your own criteria or evaluation criteria? How do you do that? Or is it a bit more gut?
Firstly, I think I take on roles from my clients. So the first thing I look at is, okay, what problems do my clients have? And the only way you can really find that out is to, one, meet your clients, understand their business, but also take your job brief from the hiring manager, but then also speak to team members, ex-employees, so you really get a good understanding of the culture of a company. Find out what specific problems that they want this person to solve. Are they going in on a tough project that's losing money? Are they just needed to be fairly amicable and have great soft skills to be able to assimilate or knit a team together? I think that's the when you're taking a job brief, or you're picking a role up from a company, that's the sort of key points for me. And then, as you said earlier on, using your knowledge of your network to know where to go to find that person. And usually I know the people, not super well, that I place in with my clients, but I guess after, I think 14 years now, just recruiting 4 civil contractors in Sydney. Of course, new people come through all the time, but the net people is, I would say probably 70 or 80% of the people that I place, I know. I have some sort of dealing with.
Okay. So it says that you're a a trusty recruiter. And I picked up on that because, obviously, trust is everything in my mind. Are you saying that because you feel like some people don't trust recruiters, or is this a little catchy thing that is, obviously your little brand piece? I'm very interested to know that because openly, like engineers, there are a lot of stereotypes out there. So tell me a little bit about that.
Yes and yes. So yes, I do think there's the recruitment industry is pretty much unregulated, right? There's no governing body, there's no rules, but there's still a code of practice that's the do's and don'ts, and the industry doesn't have the best reputation because there are people that cross those lines. So and like you said earlier on, trust is a very big part of building relationships. Now, I don't work in a massive market. It's civil contractors, and there's probably, 60 in Sydney, and I probably do or have worked with half of them. And if you burn bridges, it takes a hell of a long time to rebuild them.
Yeah.
So trusty on that side, that, when my clients put the phone down to me, or when a candidate that I'm saying that I'll do something for or help out in any way, shape, or form puts the phone down, the trust is there that I'm doing it. And that if I don't get the results, the trust is that I have attempted, because I don't fill every role, I don't place every candidate. So it's just that element of trust that, people feel that you're going to deliver on what you've said you would, or you're going to give it your best shot. And then I guess trust on the other side, goes through your life, right? So there's the trust that I want to portray to people out there, that maybe I'm one of the recruiters that you can trust
Mm,
to do the right thing. But then, trust is about being able to open doors with that trust. But in order to keep that trust, once you've opened the doors, you need to demonstrate capability and you need to add value, right? And I think that then, that trust, then you don't have to talk about it. It's just there, and then people come back. Candidates you place become clients. People start to refer you because of the experience they've had. So I think, yeah, trust is a massive part of what I do.
mm. Yeah, no doubt. I mean, as you said, you're shaping careers. So, that in itself, you really want someone on your side. So tell me, just out of pure interest, have you recommended someone for a role, they've interviewed, they were going to go for the job, and then something's happened and you realized, no, they're the wrong fit, or there's something not quite right, and then said, no, no, pull out of the job?
Yeah, on more than a few occasions, and it's
Wow.
happened both ways. So sometimes I've realized something about somebody that I've put forward, um, or I've been advised, or I've just come to realizing that maybe they're not right for my client, and I've advised my client, and vice versa. I've advised candidates that, hey, listen, that project we were talking about that you're interviewing for, listen, just to give you the heads up, it's hit a delay, or the
Yep.
PM left, people are working exorbitant hours, whatever it might be. But I feel you can't be called a consultant unless you consult, and part of being a
I like
consultant,
that.
yeah, it is making sure that all cards are on the table at all times. Now, I don't.
Mm,
It contingency recruitment has a replacement guarantee. In fact, I think retained recruitment has a replacement guarantee in place as well, where if a candidate's not right,
yeah.
and they leave on their own accord, or they're let go within a period of time, usually 3 months or sometimes 6 months, we will replace them free of charge, which I've always stuck by, but I don't like doing it, right? So because to me it's working for free. So I'll try very hard to get the right person the first time.
Yeah.
Um, Sometimes it comes to bite you on the backside, and you miss out on filling roles, or you lose roles because you're not acting quick enough, but I think it all balances out in the long run. And I think that you placing people and knowing that they could drop out for me is just, it's a waste of my time, waste of their time, waste of my client's time, and invariably it will leave a bad taste in someone's mouth somewhere along the line. So best just to not go down that path, I think.
So you mentioned the word there, value, and I think that's obviously what you're providing for your clients on both sides of the table. Are engineers and project managers and the sort of clients you deal with, are they good at showing their value? Are they good at providing their value proposition? Do you feel like that's part of your role to actually help them, to try and understand what that really is?
Um, I think with civil contractors, they look for a lot more attitude, demonstrated capability, because recruitment comes at a cost, right? So most companies, when using a recruitment agency, will want immediate value. And when I say value, they won't want to give or want to have to give somebody time to get up to speed. They want them to hit the ground running.
Yeah.
So and most of my clients wouldn't really come to me for grad level or anybody that doesn't have 2-3 years post grad, because they want value for their money, right? So
Yeah.
and I often feel that people or engineers, after they've had that couple of years experience, they very quickly, most of them very quickly understand their value proposition.
Mm.
From a coaching perspective, from my side, very rarely do I have to. And look, I'm probably not the best person for getting an engineer to understand their value. I could probably ask them questions that would trigger their own thought process around what their
Yeah.
value proposition is. But yeah, I probably wouldn't be the best to give them, because that comes down to like your values as a person, I guess, and
Mm.
where you yourself and how quick you want to get there, and there's a whole heap of things that come together to form your VP. But I generally think that engineers, when they've got 2-3 years experience under their belt, yeah, they're pretty sharp on it, on what they want and what they can add and what they bring to the party.
Mm. Now I had to ask about best interview question ever. Um, and I'm sure you must get it all the time. But I've always throw out mine. I love my what project are you proud of and why? One of my other favorites, why should I hire you? Just straight up, just like get right at it.
Yeah.
What are some of yours, and what have you heard, and yeah, what do you
Well,
for your picks?
funnily enough, that last one you touched on there, I had an engineer a couple of years ago who asked my client, um, just reversed
Yeah,
the question and just popped it on the client.
love it.
Why should I accept a role at your company? And luckily enough, the HR manager for the company, who was 50% of the interview, so it was HR manager and a construction manager, had been with the business for years. So she took control straight away. But by all accounts, the construction manager was stumped. So it was very good, very good that she was there. And on the other side of that, I less than 12 months ago, I had an engineer come out of an interview and said to me he felt like it was the Spanish Inquisition. And I said, why? He said it was just question after question after question about what would you do, how would you handle this? And I said, well, look, that's their interview technique and that works for them. And he said, yeah, but they asked me to give them an approximation of the cubic capacity of the room we were sitting in, just at the
Oh,
table.
nice.
Yeah, just work out.
That's
Yeah,
a great question though. I
yeah.
like
So
that.
yeah, yeah.
It's got me
So
thinking about it right now.
I said I didn't. Obviously, I'm not an engineer, so that for me would be a calculator job.
Ha! I do remember actually once we literally just come out of a meeting and we were joking about some drawing that, you know, had a few mistakes on it, and we actually gave the drawing to this young engineer and said, "Oh, just tell me what's wrong with that." And they said something like, "Oh, it's got the wrong date on it. It's not today's date." I just laughed.
Brilliant, yeah. And
Yeah,
that's I guess he probably knew the obvious, but was also picking up on something that other people don't see. So that for me is like a
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Document control 101. So tell me, how many interviews is too many? Um,
Um,
I hear a lot of people having to go through a lot of interviews, personality tests, psych tests. What, I mean, I feel like maybe in this industry, it's much like you meet someone once, you have a good feeling, you go, yeah, great. Maybe a second to meet someone else in the business. And maybe that's, again, maybe it's industry specific, but yeah, what's your take on that?
I think 2 interviews and a what they call a meet and greet, where you just go in, have a bit of a walk around the environment, meet the team members. Lovely to get a sit down with a team member or two, impromptu, so that
Mm,
there's not much in the way of preparation. Um, and I think that's enough. Sometimes I guess, maybe at the more senior level with senior leadership teams in companies, it might, you know, I didn't even know they did site testing anymore. It's been years, I think, since anybody that I have, from an engineer perspective, has had to do one. But yeah, I certainly think now, your CV and where you've worked and how long you've been there and the projects you've been on from a construction delivery point is the evidence that you can do the role. And most of these people know somebody that you work with, and all these sorts of checks and phone calls go on in the background, which they shouldn't, but they do. Um, so your skill set and your experience is evident, and more than 50% of it these days is are you the right fit for the company? Um, do you have the right ambition and the right attitude? Are you going to cause more dramas, or are you going to bring things tighter together? And I think that if you can't tell that with 2 1-hour meetings with somebody, then you need to reevaluate what you're looking for, because you don't know, in my opinion.
mm. Yeah, I mean, well, yeah. If sometimes you think 5 minutes, you
Yeah,
already get a good sense of a person.
yeah.
Um, References. Who do I choose? Do I put them on my CV? How important are they?
Super important. But let's bear in mind that most referees, you're not going to give a referee who's going to say bad things about you, right? So,
Hope
yeah,
not.
yeah, well, that has happened too, and I've had it,
Wow.
yeah, lots of times.
Wow.
Even people saying, as far as, no, I don't want to give a reference, but could you ask them why they even consider that, putting me on that?
Wow.
And, because you can't give a bad. I think it is actually illegal to give a bad reference. You have to just say, no, I'm not happy to give one. But look, back to
Oh, is
answering your
that
question.
right?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, unless that's changed, but it used to be the case. Uh,
Interesting.
yeah, yeah. There's all sorts of defamation of character things that can come out of that, and I guess preventing somebody from getting a job. But I think, yeah, I think you just have to say, I'm not willing to give one, and that you read between the lines on that.
Mm,
Um, I've had people, referees from 15 years ago, yeah, sorry, I don't really remember them, or yeah. So I think that, look, they're super important, um, and but you really need to delve into certain areas. So your questions of, um, can you note any achievements? Do they work well with peers, subordinates? What's their supervisory style? How strong are they technically? They can give one word answers, 8 out of 10, very strong. So you really need to delve in to get people to open up, depending on what your potential employer or your client from a recruiter's perspective, what they want you to drill down on. I think that they should be on your CV, maybe without their contact details. And I think that, that you should definitely speak to them before people call them for a reference. Like I said, you should have a relationship with your referee. Your referee should want to sing your praises, they should definitely be refreshed and prepared for people to call up to take a reference.
Yes, briefed. First,
Yeah.
they need to know they are going to be a reference and expect a call.
Yeah.
I've had a lot where you ring someone, they're like, oh, okay, I didn't even realize I was a reference. That's a red flag.
Yeah. And look, I've having a referee on your CV can often get you a new job as well. I can't remember the amount of times I've called up referees to take a reference on a candidate who I'm close to placing with a client, only for that referee to go, oh, I didn't know they were looking, and tap them up within the following days, because obviously they like them. Well, not obviously, but you'd like to think they have a good relationship with each other, and if they're looking for anyone at that particular time, they're on the phone. And
Wow, that's a quick recruitment fee, that one.
Yeah, look, it happens, right? You can't just hide everything, smoke and mirrors, trying to control everything, right? You just have to let things go the way that they go, and sometimes you win, sometimes you lose, and invariably it all balances out in the end. There's only so much you can try and drive things in certain directions, right?
Yeah, no, I hear that. Yep, caution to the wind. So,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm big on LinkedIn. I like LinkedIn. I think LinkedIn is it's a very powerful tool. I don't think a lot of people leverage LinkedIn enough. How important is LinkedIn when it comes to a job hunt, being noticed, personal brand? Because I do get this sense around people talking about, your CV, and I'll drop cover letters for a minute, but how do you see that is the future of CVs? Do you think that's just going to become more and more, why would you need a CV? Just look me up on LinkedIn. Do you even get that now, or just out of interest? I'm very interested about your take on it and maybe where the future of that might be going.
Yeah, look, I think that LinkedIn is definitely the biggest database for recruiters in the world. In fact, I think that recruiters for a long period were LinkedIn's probably bread and butter. That's where most of them, because everybody was on there. Okay. LinkedIn became a really fashionable tool for professionals, and then it kind of peters off, and then they come back, and then it peters off. So trusting the data and how current it is on LinkedIn, yes, people might have their current positions and their titles, but they don't put new projects on. Okay, so it's a really good tool for finding people, grouping people, staying in touch with people, but I still think that the CV can be tailored for a position that you're going for. Everything has to be factual on your CV, right? But you can still tailor it more. So if you're sending your CV to a HR person for a construction job, or a project director for a construction job, they might want to see different things. So you just target it slightly, but whereas your LinkedIn profile is what it is, and you can spend a long time putting a whole heap of information on there, but people don't look at it for that. People just want it as a place to find people and stay in touch with people, I think. But such a massive tool. I would say that, I think we have somewhere close to 80,000 people on our database, and I would say that if 10% of those were updated and current, that would be a massive amount. I don't know how many of them are current, but the good thing about LinkedIn is it's the most current database that anybody has, because it's updated by the people rather than the company who it belongs to. Okay, so yeah, it's such a powerful tool for networking. We touched a little bit there on, or you mentioned personal branding, and I was just on a bit of a webinar yesterday with a really good guy in personal branding, talking about being genuine. Yeah,
Yeah.
and I think for me, I use LinkedIn as a place to find candidates, as a place to keep in touch with people, as a place to put out industry specific news or project specific news, so that people can, I guess, hope to rely on me to have the knowledge about what's going on outside their own little bubble or their own project or their own company. But also I will use it for ruffling feathers, being a little bit controversial sometimes. Now, always bearing in mind that there's certain things that you should and shouldn't put out there. But I do think that being yourself and letting your personality comes out is a massive part of people's day-to-day activity on LinkedIn.
Mm. I had this a couple of times where I picked up a CV and I thought, oh, I'll just have a look on LinkedIn. And then I go to a LinkedIn profile and you're going, oh, these are like
These are people.
very different. Like
Yeah.
one really great, the other one, oh, not so good. What do you think about that? Because it does bring in a bit of a question mark in my mind.
Yeah. Again, LinkedIn is all templates.
Yeah.
So it suggests skills that you can put in. And if you're really, really bad at writing your own CV, LinkedIn can often be much better. And I've seen some,
Yeah.
yeah, but from an engineering perspective, I think that you should be able to creatively write your own and format your own CV and be able to portray what you've done, where you've done it for. I mean, if you can't just get the basics right of a CV, then I'll be questioning capability. But I worked in a trade industry before I was in engineering recruitment, and I think it came down to, back to the day when I've received handwritten CVs before.
Wow.
Well, CVs have come into us with literally dates, title, company, but no tasks, duties, responsibilities, achievements, nothing. Just like a charge sheet or just time stamped. So yeah, I think LinkedIn's good in that way. If you can't write a CV, put it all on LinkedIn because it prompts you. It's set out. It's a template. So most LinkedIn profiles look the same.
Yeah.
Obviously, the bio and the summary and the parts that you create yourself look different, but structurally they all look the same. So if you're really bad at writing CVs, just put it all on LinkedIn, because you can download LinkedIn as a PDF as well, right?
That is true. Have you ever seen that?
Yeah. So I've had clients and candidates accept me putting them forward for positions by way of just presenting their LinkedIn profile. So it's just downloaded as a PDF. It's not
Yeah.
presented as a CV. I will present it as their LinkedIn profile with a view to a comprehensive CV to follow
Sure.
next week or however long it might be. But
Yeah.
yeah, get people into the mix if they're, to prevent them from missing out, or prevent clients from missing out on somebody. Yeah, it's becoming
Interesting.
acceptable. Yeah.
Tell me
And
about the
again,
best
always,
CV. Oh, sorry.
just reiterate, always with permission.
Of course.
Always.
Oh, you're trusty.
For me, that's the number one sin. It's the absolute worst for a myriad of reasons. 3 times this week, I've gone through it with people and with companies where they're a CV of somebody that I'm looking to present to a client is already on their desk without that person's knowledge of it going anywhere. And it's yeah, it's sickening, really. It's my biggest bugbear.
Tell me about the CV. So what was in the best CV that you've ever seen? Or what was the best CV you've ever seen?
Um, in terms of information,
Oh, just the best. It doesn't matter.
um,
Whatever it was. What do you reckon? What was in it? Can you think of what it was? I'll tell you mine, and then you
yeah,
can have a think, right? So the best one I ever saw was, and it's not for engineering, but my good friend of mine was a marketing executive at some, global marketing house, and he comes home with this this piece of paper. He's like, check this out. I'm like, what? And he just gets a cup of coffee and he just pours it on this blank piece of paper. And then all this ink comes out and the CV just sort of like came to life right in front of our eyes. It was a wet, wet piece of paper, but you could see all the writing on it, had the guy's name or whatever. And he's like, yeah, we just hired this guy today. He brought two just in case the first one didn't work. It's like, so I'm glad this one worked. I'm like, that is the coolest thing I've ever seen for a CV. So yeah, I don't know. It's not engineering, but I was always thinking it would be really cool just, and I have seen engineers do it, bring like bios and drawings and here's my work. And sometimes you go, you know what, that's really cool
yeah,
because yes, I've seen your CV, but I haven't seen your work. And sometimes that's all you need to present your case, right? So anyway,
yeah.
your turn.
A bit of creativity. Do you know what? None spring to mind, and I've seen hundreds of thousands
I
over the
can't
years,
imagine.
but none that I've seen really good CVs. A really good CV to me is a CV that I think that my clients will want to see. I know it sounds a bit crassy and a bit boring, but if a CV for me is in too many different font styles, or it's got columns or boxes or pictures, um, it can become overwhelming and a bit
Yeah,
messy. I just like to see name, education, maybe a brief summary, skills like extracurricular or softwares or whatever it might be, and then straight into your company, your project. I love to see project information, values of projects, scope. So
values,
what company was, yeah,
big
yeah,
time.
and
Metrics, numbers.
yeah, yeah, and that person's scope of work. What did you actually look after? What were
Yeah,
you responsible for?
yeah,
No, and I think I think the average CVs, the average amount of time that a CV is given is something like 7 seconds to
yep,
either make an impact or click on to the next one. So punchy, and make sure that you present your CV in a way with the person who's going to be opening it in mind. And I do the same with my LinkedIn emails. If I send somebody a message, I write it as if I'm reading it and I'm them, right? And what does
yeah,
this person see? I like to do it with my job ads. So I don't really talk much about the role when I'm writing job ads. I will talk about the benefits. I need to tell that person really quickly why they should leave where they currently are and join whoever it is I'm writing the job ad for. Because I just think that cutting and pasting a job description, or just, you see companies write about us, that most of it is about us, and people are not interested in that, really. They want to know who they're working with, they want to know how far it is, how much they're going to get paid. And then the rest of it is, the softer stuff, the enjoyable stuff. What problems do you want me to fix? What is my manager like? You know, and I think that you need to grab people early, and I think that CVs need to do that as well, because all these technologies make things so much quicker and so much easier, and yet we still feel like we have less and less time. Right? Who reads books these days? You do audio books, and it's just,
yeah.
yeah. So the amount of time you have to grab people's attention is just getting shorter and shorter.
Yeah, I think I posted something on it some time ago because I think for me the best CV is the one that I'll actually continue to read, hopefully for its entirety, because I'm invested in this story and the journey, and I want to know all the detail because it is punchy and it is, it's summarized and it's neat, and I want to know about everything because there's, sometimes you get there and you're like, oh yeah, yep, cool, flip, done. And it is easy just to do that because, and I mean, a hiring manager hired, multiple engineers over my career, and sometimes you go, yep, cool, and you can tell from the CV whether it's interview worthy or not. But then there are others that you actually want to go through the detail because you want to know that
Yeah,
story. So yeah.
yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
so working with a lot of migrant and international engineers, um, for them and that sector of the market, what would be the best advice that you give to international and migrant engineers looking to get into the workforce?
I get calls and approaches from a lot, and you know, my advice is first and foremost to all of them. Okay, I'm upfront and I explain the recruitment process from a company using me as a provider to find them the right person. Okay, what do my clients generally want? They want somebody that they don't have to give time to get across specs. Somebody who has, if BMD, for instance, say to me, "Will find us a project engineer for a $55 million road job in Canberra," they want me to find somebody from a Seymour White or a Fulton Hogan or a John Holland or and somebody who's doing the identical job elsewhere
Yeah,
who can come in here and just assimilate really quickly and fix the problem that we have. So for as a recruitment consultant to place somebody who might need 3 to 6 months to fit in, who maybe can't communicate as well as they would need to be able to fit in super quickly, needs to get up to speed with specs. Companies don't want to pay a recruitment fee for that. So I think that the best way for these engineers to get their foot in the door with companies is to build that network of, okay, these are the list of 30 civil contractors in the space that I would like to get into, or I've been in previously overseas. Start connecting with the engineers, the project managers, the construction managers, the delivery people, the people who understand their language of problem solving on construction projects. Okay, you can put your CV into their HR or recruitment teams. Sometimes it gets lost in the ether because those people have a tick list. This CV comes in, doesn't tick any of those things. It's dismissed straight away. However, a project manager will say, I like that. They've been there, they've done it somewhere else. They can bring a whole heap of international experience, right?
yeah,
Cultural differences. They've faced different problems. They've overcome adverse weather conditions. Whatever it might be. I think there's so much that they can bring value-wise, but I just think that trying to get that first position through a recruitment company when there's a fee attached just
mm,
brings up a heap more difficulties. And unfortunately, a lot of recruitment people in the recruitment industry will take that CV, promise the earth to get that CV, to maybe hit a KPI to send another CV out to another 10 companies
mm,
without really trying to, it's kind of throwing as many CVs at a wall as they can and seeing how many stick, right? And I just think that you can get led down a garden path by recruiters who maybe with all best intentions feel like they can get you in to one of their companies or one of their clients, but that fee that's attached is a real sticking point. And companies are a little bit reluctant to pay us, as they are for grads. I never place grad engineers because companies don't want to pay for them. Why? Because they can pay $500 for a Seek advert and get inundated with CVs. I'm sure if if CPB put an advert up tomorrow saying site engineers needed with no local experience, there'd be 100,000 applications, right?
Yeah.
So they don't need to pay a recruitment fee, and in general, they don't. So yeah, my advice to people coming into the country is get to understand the industry that you want to be in, or the industry that you are in from your country of origin, and what that industry looks like here. Get across the specs if you can. Get your white card done. Build your network on channels like LinkedIn. Send out punchy messages. Be straight to the point. In Australia, project managers and project directors want you to be fairly direct. Yeah, they want leadership qualities. So enforce that. When you write your CV, make sure that it speaks those things that they're looking for. And I feel that advice and that time that they've taken with me, and then going away and using LinkedIn to build that network, bears a lot more fruit for them. In fact, I know it does. I've had people come back to me and say, Will, I was looking for months and months, talking to endless people, and a lot of misinformation was given to me, and I had a conversation with you, and I went away and shifted my focus, and 2 weeks later I got in with a civil contractor, and that's it. I'm off and running. I've heard some horror stories of companies taking people working for free.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's such a shame. Yeah, and I just think that if you present yourself in a way that people in the construction delivery space working with contractors in Australia, or engineering design consultancies, or even client side, if you can present like you've been here for a while, that's probably the best arsenal that you have, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Because communication is massive. Okay, if you can't communicate in the world of engineering, you can't survive. Communication, presentation, that ability to raise a concern rather than try and sweep something under the table or stick your head in the sand. That ability to present issues before they snowball, before they escalate. That I think that's what people need to work on. Engineers need to work on when they come into, because culturally sometimes they come from backgrounds where you can't discipline somebody who's more senior than you, or and that you need to understand that when you come here, it's all different. If you hold rank, doesn't matter about your age, your background. If somebody reports into you, you need to be able to drag them over the coals if you need to do it, which I think sometimes they can struggle with. So yeah, I think that best piece of advice is to present yourself, or to get yourself sharply up to speed with, or presented in a way that as if you've been here for a while. That's probably the best piece of advice. But yeah, going through recruiters, I just think that companies, they don't want to pay. They don't want to pay our fee for people who don't add immediate value to their projects.
Mention, be vulnerable, be genuine, and say, hey, saw your profile, love what you're doing, I'm here, I'm struggling, or I would love to be able to pick your brain, or even shout you a coffee. And I think I've reflected on it once in the post about someone just said to me after a coffee, they shouted me a coffee, and they said, oh, that was the cheapest hour of coaching I ever could have got. And I'm like, oh, you got me. And I'm like, oh yeah, great, good on you. Because you got me to a point where I was more than happy to have a coffee and tell you what you should do and strategize with you, just because out of interest and being a friendly guy and whatnot. But yeah, I think a lot of people need to hear this, because there is this barrier. I feel there's a lot of people think there's a barrier to entry. They feel like, oh, I couldn't message someone I don't know, or I couldn't reach out to someone that I've only met on LinkedIn, or someone's connection is someone's connection. People need to know that, and they need to hear it, because I think a lot of younger engineers, particularly, they're looking at how do I network, but they don't know that it's just that easy. Ask the question, be inquisitive, put yourself out there.
Yeah, that's it. And you touched on vulnerability there. It's tugging on heartstrings is a great way to get somebody's attention. And I don't mean self-pity and but there's just something that resonates with people, like the
Yeah.
struggle of getting your first job when you come to a new country, right? You don't have to tell them all about your family and how they're struggling and mouths to feed. It's just something that makes them think, yeah, you know what, that must suck. And most of them will give you time.
Well, it's funny because if I was going to reach out to you, what I would say is, hey, tell me about this dive against debris. Or I'd say, I
Yeah.
used to scuba dive when I was young. I loved it. Oh, I see that you like to scuba. That for me
Yeah.
would be a great segue. So on that, tell me about that. What is that? It sounds super interesting. Sounds like you've been doing it for a long time.
No, so actually, I haven't done it for a long time. So I was scuba diving for probably best part of 10 years. I started off as just I guess, a novice diver who just wanted to do something else with Saturdays to, I guess, brighten up the weekend. Um, and I just fell into it. And before I knew it, I'd gone through the advanced course and then the rescue course, and I went all the way to dive master. Did consider going down the instructor route, but it cost thousands of dollars. And really, then once you're an instructor, you're really responsible for how people turn out as scuba divers and their safety then. And you know, I won't say that it wasn't of interest to me, but it's given up a lot to become an instructor. So I stayed at the dive master level, and would help out on courses. And I think I ended up notching up somewhere close to 600 or 700 dives. Um,
Wow.
yeah, and I went over to Vanuatu and I was doing some deep wreck diving down to sort of 68, 69 meters. And I went
Cool.
and did some pelagic diving, which is all sharks and rays and big stuff. Yeah, I've done like a bull shark feeding dive in Fiji. Um, and then I met my wife, moved away from the eastern suburbs to Western Sydney. Just things shifted, priorities shifted, and I became a tropical diver, and I'm still one of those now. So if I go on holiday somewhere, I'll go scuba diving. But it's I used to just, nothing would bother me going in 10, 11-degree water in Sydney for an hour. But now, I need the warmer waters now, mate. But the diving against debris was something by Project Aware, which is basically every single dive club and scuba divers all around Australia and I think the world just organise cleanups. So we did our dive for debris in La Perouse in Botany Bay, and I think 59 kilos of fishing leads, lures, hooks, bottles,
Wow.
trolleys, an anchor from a boat. There was engines that had been
Oh,
dropped off outboards. It was pretty good. It was good fun. Some of the stuff had to come up with, the inflatable air bags because
oh
it just,
yeah.
and that goes on everywhere, and it still does to this day. And I think it's great because there's a lot of people out there cleaning up stuff off the surface of the oceans, but it's only really the divers that get to the stuff on the bottom. So and obviously there's a
Mm,
barbecue and a few drinks, so you turn it into a bit of a social event.
of
Um,
course.
no, it's good. But yeah, my
Awesome.
daughter and son now are kind of pestering me about the scuba diving. I just hope that I'm still able to scuba dive when they're old enough. I'm not sure how long my daughter would last underwater. She's the the merest sight of a fish in the ocean and she's petrified. But I think my boy would get right into it. So we'll wait and see.
Oh, that's awesome. No, well done. So back to recruiting. So tell me, can you see any trends, future trends, maybe in the recruitment space, maybe tech we touched on earlier, maybe in the the civil contracting space? Can you see from where you're standing, shaping careers, what can you see some trends sort of coming into the market now? Is there a shift, change in direction? Is tech coming in, or is it not? Is it still very much, trust and relationship based? What are you seeing in the market at the moment?
From a recruiting perspective,
Yeah.
video's probably been the biggest thing that I've seen come in over the last couple
Okay.
of years. There's people sending in CVs via way of or accompanied with a video, which I think is fantastic. There's a contact I've got who's got a recruitment agency who presents their candidates CV with, so the client will jump into a portal, look at a video of the recruiter and the candidate interviewing, whilst they can read the candidate's CV as well. So then you get a grip of that person's cultural fit for your business as well. I think that's probably the most exciting, the video CV or the video presentation aspect. There's a lot of AI generated stuff that I think we're still a few years away from, because recruitment still really needs that human interaction, if you ask me.
Mm.
I think AI will replace a lot of the background stuff, but I still think that people need to deal with people, especially when it comes down to the latter stages of the recruitment process, right? I think that the early phases, like the identification, the application, the sifting through CVs, will all be taken care of by AI at some stage. But I still think that the negotiating is still going to be that, that human factor is still going to need to be involved. And I think that, from my perspective, again, it all comes back down to relationships. Yeah, because people do like to deal with people. I know I do.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think you can't replace that interaction yet.
Yes.
Yet.
I love the idea. I mean, I've heard of the video, yep, that sounds done. But I do like the idea of being able to watch someone be interviewed on a video while having a little browse over, even if it was just a short clip or just a, little teaser.
Yep.
Yeah, that's actually quite exciting.
Yeah. And it's not, again, it's not like I say, an interview per se. It might be a 5-6 minute clip. Tell me a bit about yourself. What made you get into the industry? Not really
Yeah,
anything that's
casual.
related, to that company or that project, but it's just a bit about you. The CV tells the skill set and the previous experience, and even though that person's not actually looking at you and answering your questions, you just seeing them sitting there answering questions.
Mm.
It's just I think it's carrying a lot of weight. I'm not great at sort of video, or putting content out there, video content out there, but I would certainly like to look at this and giving it a trial shot myself. So it's something I might be doing moving forward.
Here we go. Watch this space.
I'll give it a go. I said. I
You
didn't say I was going to
should
go.
give it a go. Can you, I mean, I don't know, I think I can sometimes, on probably most time. Can you tell when a CV has been written by ChatGPT?
Um, it doesn't usually get more than 7 seconds. Yeah,
Good
no, I
point.
don't. Yeah, no, I think ChatGPT is really great. I think that you can ask ChatGPT to write you something, and what you get back is written by ChatGPT, and you can see it straight away. But I think once you start asking it questions, and once you start refining, and you get different tones, I think that it can be tricky.
Mm,
I don't think I could pick it straight away if it was done well.
yeah.
But the amount of information for a CV that you would have to put into Chat GPT for it to spit out something better, you might as well just write it yourself. I think that you could certainly take excerpts from it and little bits and pieces here and there,
Yeah.
and
Weave.
build that into your own CV for sure.
Mm,
Getting it to write a whole document, I don't think CVs are a particularly good way to go.
yeah, I hear that. Mate, I tell you what, that has been super insightful. I love it because we've got to go full circle on not just you, where you came from, your tagline, but really pointing out that it is really, and I think in most industries, it's about trust, it's about people, it's relationships and networks. And I really do hope that, all of the listeners have just gotten so much from this, because I know I have. And now I'm really looking forward, because I'm actually excited. I think somehow I need to do more video. I've got to do something video. I've got to do something creative. I got to get out there and do a bit more on that. So thanks so much for enlightening me on your experience and how far you've come.
No, look, I think just touching on that video side again, Darren, I think that putting yourself out there and recording one for yourself and watching it back, if you feel that people would like to see it, and this is really for the engineers, I say go for it, right? Because I think that visual interaction is definitely the way forward. And I think that for the engineers that are struggling, maybe because they're not getting past a piece of paper when they send it into a company here that may be new in the country, absolutely go for it. Give it a shot. What is there to lose, right? So, but look, thank you for having me on. You've even instigated me into the value proposition part that I haven't thought about that sort of stuff for ages. So, and the content that I put out, and it's nice that we can sort of bounce this thing off and both come out of it with fresh ideas.
Mate, I've taken notes. I've got some doozies, so I've taken my golden nuggets already. William Morris, thanks so much. That was a lot of fun, and I'm very much looking forward to the tagline now. I presume everyone can find you on LinkedIn. We're happy to drop you a link to your bio on when we launch this. So any other way to get out with you? I notice your mobile number's on there. That's a big
Yes, I've got
move.
my mobile number on there. I'd much rather have a conversation with somebody before we go down the CV route. It just saves a lot of time. And again, I like talking to people. So yeah, you can find me at William Morris at Constructability Recruitment. And if I can't place you in one of my clients, I will do the best I can to offer my direction and advice.
No, I love that, mate. You're a legend. Thanks so much.
Cheers, Darren. All the best. Thanks.
Cheers, mate. Cool. That was really good. Really enjoyed that.
Yeah, it was good. Sorry, Darren, just give me 1 second, mate.
Oh, you're right. Go for it.
Oh yeah, cool. I might send it to Darren tomorrow. Thank you. Sorry, kids have just gone to bed, left my wife um, with the army. It's like the witching hour, the brushing the teeth. My boy's on antibiotics at the moment, so
Oh
yeah,
no.
in there in his ear, he's having drops in his ear as well. So getting him to bed and then
Oh, you go, mate.
like
All good. We
one
chat
side. No,
chat
it's
forever.
it's done. It's done. But no, that's and my wife was just showing me a bit of an article, an excerpt of something that I might send to you over the next couple of days. Really interesting stuff. But no, that was good. Like I said, there's a few things that you touched on in there that I am yeah, keen to look into and maybe build into my approach, just refresher stuff.
Yeah, well, it's funny because I think because I try and do a lot of mentoring, coaching. I was, mentoring my own staff, talking to them, and there are so many stereotypes. There's so many trends. There's so many things that people don't realize, don't know, and I don't know. But then on the flip side, I have this feeling that younger engineers now know so much more than what I knew. Like I didn't know about shares or dividends or company structures. Like I didn't know any of that. And then you talk to some young engineer and they're like, "Oh, what's your family trust?" And you're like, "Well, how do you even know all this stuff?" And I feel there's so much more information and knowledge out there, but then I still feel like there's just this lack of street smarts maybe, or
Yeah.
this intelligence to get you through those situations where you have to think about your ethics or empathy or whatever it is. So yeah, I don't know whether it's because there's so much and then people don't know how to sift through. Because when I
Yeah.
was young, mate, if you found someone that actually cared about you, you just latched onto them, right? That was all you ever did. You just find someone that cares, go with them. That's all you need to know.
Yeah.
Yeah, so and it's funny because I try to talk to a lot of different people, and it's just so nice to have a very much a different perspective. You're not in, you're sure, you recruit a guy, you know your stuff, you work with so many people, but you're at the coalface of, as I said, shaping people's careers. Like that is so cool to think that you could place someone here, there, and be part of their career journey, and that like being a recruiter, that's so powerful because normally it's someone who loses someone or hires someone. They're that maybe that decision maker, but you're already there. You're already making decisions to do something that will change someone's life.
Yeah, look, I think that changing somebody's mind is one of the is one of my favorite things. Somebody who takes a role somewhere and says, what, William, if I hadn't have listened to you explain to me about, when we first started speaking about this position, I wasn't interested at all. But then you changed my mind 6 months later. I'm looking back on it, and it's the best decision I ever made. That for
Yeah,
me is magnificent, right? Because that, going back to what I said earlier on, is the real consultant part of recruitment consultant, because people hear recruitment consultant and they say, oh, he's a recruiter, right? There's recruiters and then there's recruitment consultants. But the real focus is on the consultant part of it. So
yeah,
um, I have no, I'll often tell somebody if a company's not right for them. I'll often
yeah,
tell a company if, people are not right, or I'll often tell a company I think they're looking for the wrong type of person,
yeah,
or, and I think more often than not, if you present that information in the right way, they'll thank you for it. Might
yeah,
not agree with it, but they don't take it they're not offended by it.
yeah,
In fact, it might give them a different perspective. But I think what you said earlier on about um, engineers and younger people in general just being so technically, well, not technically, just full of information that you feel like they shouldn't really have yet.
yeah.
Um,
That's
I
it.
think you hit the nail on the head. There's too much for them to sift through, right?
Yeah,
You know, 25 years ago, you were a good site engineer. You found a construction manager or a project manager, and you, like you said, you stuck to them. You learnt from them. You didn't leave the company. You worked under them for 8 years on 9 different projects, and you became this fantastic engineer um, because you learnt in the right steps, right?
yeah.
Now they just go everything, 100 million different things,
I want to
and
be a
then
design manager.
I know that's in there somewhere, but
Yeah,
it gets lost in there.
I've,
And
I've got
the
a
ability,
I've got a post I'm drafting about it. It's like
ability
three
to be
years site engineer, three years site engineer, 3 years project engineer, 3 years senior project manager, senior project, just and that was just sort of what. But now it's like 2 years experience. I'm a design manager.
yeah, yeah,
You're like, no, you're not. Like, how could you be a design manager? Like, I'm not about people having different years of experience. Like, if someone comes in and wows my socks off, call yourself whatever you want. I've got no problem with that. But I find the competency is not there.
no, they're a design manager. No, they can manage design on something,
Yeah.
but being a design manager and managing a department that manages the design of things is it takes years of exposure and years of experience, right? You know, that ability to lead, that ability to mentor, that ability to problem solve, that ability to strategically build. You can't be that. It's impossible. You
Mm.
can know theoretically how to do it all, but there's no way you can physically carry it all out, because it takes years to be able to learn how to do it, to then to be able to do it, right? It's just but you can't say that. You can't
No,
tell.
no, you can't. No, and it's hard too because I find they're mostly in authoritative positions.
Yeah.
Like they're at a council or a utilities authority, or they're in this position where you almost have to teach them
Mm.
why it is. And I also find too that that practical nature of engineering, that use of logic, it's just long gone. People just point at something and be like, "Oh, you just have to because of this." I'm like, "But why?" "Oh, because that's
Yeah.
what that says." You're like,
Yeah.
but that actually that's not
You
fit the
understand why
purpose.
it says it. Like,
Yeah, no, that's right. So
I don't
yeah,
need to.
I feel like we've got a long way to go.
Yeah.
But it is nice to know that you're waving the baton, mate.
Yeah, look, and I think that, obviously I'm still governed by, so the companies that use recruiters are the ones that pay the bills, right? So, candidates don't put, so we're governed by what the company asks us for. And, if they ask you for a certain thing and you give them something else, you can get away with it once. You can get away with it twice. Do it a third time, and they start to go, "Well, hold up a minute, I'm really busy, and you're not listening." Or, so there's only so much that we can push. But again, some of my clients I've worked with for 5, 6, 7 years, and I have relationship with them, and I say, "Well, I think you're doing it all wrong, and here's why."
Yeah,
And just let me show you what somebody of this ilk can do. Just take
yeah,
half an hour time and meet this person. Um, and I think that having that with your clients is really, really valuable. Um, because I know engineers that are 5 years postgrad that are as good as some that
yeah.
have been 10, right?
Oh,
Um,
100%.
I still don't know any that are 1 year postgrad that are better than any that are 5, 10 years postgrad, because like I said, that graduation, first year, second year, is just finding your feet, really. But I
Oh,
think
but if
that,
they've done undergraduate work experience,
yeah,
I think
yeah,
that's key. Like I've got what, 4 undergraduate engineers, and
yeah,
I
okay,
tell you what, mate, you give them about 3 or 4 months, and
yeah,
it's
okay,
like, yep, super green. Then they just start, and then they start, and then now I've got them going, "Oh, what else do you want me to do?" I'm like, "Okay, now we're talking."
yeah, good, good.
Yeah.
But I
So
think that um, there's gaps that need to be bridged
of course,
from a recruitment perspective, and I think, like, the really good thing about, for a candidate's perspective, to use a recruitment consultant who knows, one, what you want, and two, where they can get that for you from, is that when a CV is presented to a company, it will be a phone call with me to that client as well, and say, okay, when you open this CV, you're going to see this, you're not going to see that, and this might be a concern. I'm here to bridge that concern before you even think it.
yeah.
I think that's really valuable as well. So, um, yeah, but that's me waffling on about more about
Oh, mate,
using.
let's let's keep going. I'm gonna actually hit the sack, man. I'm gonna be up early in the morning.
Have you?
Um, but mate, thanks so much.
Thanks very much again, Darren. Cheers, mate.
Legend.
All the best. Bye.
Cheers. Thanks so much for listening. I really hope you enjoyed that podcast. Please like and subscribe. It helps us reach so many more aspiring engineering professionals and entrepreneurs. You can find us on LinkedIn, Spotify, and YouTube.